Tickets can be like $90, $100. Depending on how fast you're going, you might pay $200 or $300. Guess what? They may suspend your license for speeding. Or yeah, you get points and your insurance goes up. So the punishment for speeding is pretty harsh, right? But do people not speed? No. What do people do? They just wait they're just vigilant about where the police are. They want to make sure that they're not speeding in front of the police. But outside of that, pedal to the metal, right? Yeah. So in other words, what is this harsh punishment doing? It's not really getting people to not speed. Exactly. And when you say mindful, you mean you want to speed when the police are not around, right? So the question is, if harsh punishment doesn't work, okay, then what can we do to make people speed less?
Take away their license.
That's harsh punishment.
But, I mean, they don't take away your license. They give you points, and then after a year it comes off.
Well, it depends. It depends on the state. In some states, they will take your license away for speeding. Okay, but if we go back to the example of children playing rough, we could punish them harshly, or we could, give them some kind of mild punishment. So in this section of our textbook, Aronson makes the argument that in both of these cases, mild punishment would probably work better. Mild punishment as opposed to harsh punishment. And in particular, he discusses the idea of what's called insufficient punishment. This was something that was on the quiz. Insufficient punishment occurs when people lack, again, external justification for having resisted a desired activity, usually resulting in individuals devaluing the forbidden activity or object. I'll say that again. Insufficient punishment occurs when individuals lack an external justification for resisting some kind of desired activity or object, and as a result, people devalue the forbidden activity or object. So what does that mean in the context of rough play? It means that if you spank children or ground them or give them some kind of severe punishment for playing rough, then the lesson that you teach your children is, we'll do this when nobody's around and there's no way for us to get in trouble. I don't want to do that because I don't want to get in trouble. Okay? If there's no risk of me getting in trouble because there's no supervision, I'm all about it. Let's rough play. Same as the speeding example. Police aren't around, pedal to the metal. But what happens if there's mild punishment, or what Elliot Aronson would call insufficient punishment? Well, a state of dissonance is aroused. So what would be a form of mild punishment to children that are rough playing? Maybe just that evil eye that parents can give children, right? The stink eye. Or maybe time out. Maybe something on that level. So as a result, the child begins to think, wow, well, I wasn't really punished severely for not doing this thing. Okay? I wasn't punished severely, yet I didn't do it. Right? I resisted this forbidden activity. I resisted this forbidden object. Okay? Maybe it's because I actually don't like that thing. Maybe it's because I don't like that activity. Maybe the reason I didn't engage in rough playing is because I, was trying to avoid extreme punishment. Maybe it's because I grew out of it. Maybe I just don't like rough playing. So, I wanted to talk about the results of a study from the 60s, conducted by Arrington again, conducted by our author, where they had kindergartners, they're very young children, and they asked these young children to rate the attractiveness of several toys. Then an experimenter pointed to a toy that the child considered among the most attractive. So in other words, you go into this room, there are a bunch of toys, and the children rate all these toys in terms of how much they like them, how attractive they are, okay? Then the experimenter looks at their ratings, and whichever toy that they rate is like the most attractive one, they would say, you see that toy? You can't play with it, okay? You can't play with this toy. Now that toy is very attractive to the young child. Now, half of the children were threatened with a severe punishment, and half of the children were threatened with a mild punishment. Then, the experimenter leaves the room for a few minutes. None of the children, across either condition, play with the forbidden toy. Okay? So the toy, whatever toy the children indicate is the most attractive one, that is the one that the researcher makes the forbidden toy. So the experimenter says, you can't play with that toy. The experimenter leaves the room across both conditions, whether they were threatened with mild punishment or whether they were threatened with severe punishment. They did not play with the toy. But then the next day comes around, and the experimenter is gone. The study is over. At least the children think so. But they're still being monitored. And what the researchers are really trying to do is see what happens the next day when the experimenter isn't around. What will happen? Will they play with these toys? And what we see here is that the children that were threatened with severe punishment, they played with the toy, whatever that forbidden toy was, the most, relative to the children that were threatened with mild punishment. Okay? So, for example, mild punishment in this case might be something like, don't play with that toy. If you play with that toy, I'm going to be very disappointed. Okay? For little children, that's mild punishment. Severe punishment may have been something to the effect of, don't play with that toy. If you play with that toy, you can't have dessert with your lunch for the whole week. Right? That's a severe punishment. Oh man, I can't have cookies for the whole week if I play with this toy? So in one case, there's severe punishment. In one case, there's mild punishment. And what we see here is that children that were threatened with severe punishment actually played with whatever that forbidden toy was more the following day, when the experimenter was not around. So the idea is that the children in this case persuaded themselves that they didn't like that forbidden toy. Okay, that's generally what the idea of self-persuasion is. They persuaded themselves, likely on an unconscious level, that they didn't like that toy. Tracy?
Is that like similar like the law of marijuana? Like I heard people say in Maryland, like they are legal for marijuana, so you can get like anywhere. But it turned out that not that many people really attracted to marijuana and going out and smoke that. And for here, there's so many people, it still is considered illegal, but people are really attracted to it. Is that similar like this?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you could fit punishment and the decriminalization of marijuana. You could probably use this model, or with drugs more largely. I don't know the legislation in Maryland versus New York, so I don't know exactly how it works.
Like Holland.
Holland?
Yeah.
Oh, Holland.
Yeah. Like in Amsterdam.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
So, yeah, I would need to know about rates of marijuana usage there versus here, and that I'm not sure. But the idea is that our